which is the top level version. So I'll show you the functionality of Thrive. Because it may be that you guys get involved with, installing a Thrive for somebody that maybe wants to upgrade their Onyx software when they buy an Epson.
Yeah.
So this will cover, a broad range of everything. But then, when you go into Grip Center installs, some of this functionality is going to be missing, and if it's not there, then customers are not going to know about it, and it doesn't need to be shown.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys have seen Onyx before. This is the main screen to Onyx. So the main things that we're going to need to show customers is how to load jobs in, how to change color management and settings, how to again the editing functionality on Grip Center is a lot less than it is on Thrive. A few little things like how to install profiles, and how to send cut jobs out, and how to use the cut server, to actually cut stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the main job queue. Again, I'm sure you guys are familiar with this. I've put a couple of jobs in here already. Here's a load of stuff that that I've printed in the past. We can get any of this out from the queue and put it back in the active queue. It retains all the settings of the jobs as well. So if we bring anything back in, it's going to have all the settings of the color management that we used when we printed it last time. Now, the main place customers are going to be is in the job editor. So to get into the job editor, you right-click on a job and open in job editor. So what I'll do, there's various tabs up here, and I'll just flow through each of the tabs, show you the functionality, if you've got any questions as we're flowing through, then just let me know.
Okay.
So this is the printer and media settings. This is a roller banner that we're printing for an event. The reason it's upside down is just so it comes out of the machine the right way. Onyx seems to print everything in reverse, so if you want it to come out of the machine the right way round, then you have to set it up in reverse in Onyx. You can do that automatically. There is a quick setting to do that automatically, or you could just do it manually in the next tab. I only do that for demos and stuff, because if I'm with customers, it's stupid looking at stuff coming out the wrong way. So up here, we've got our media groups. So these are either by manufacturer or they're by type of vinyl, and this is pretty much dictated when you download the profile. So we'll go with Avery Dennison. These are your media names. So out of Avery, we've got all these different, well, there's only two of them, but we've got these two different vinyls available. We'll go with 2000. This is your pass rates, nice and simple. You've then got your color management. Now, I'm not sure what you guys do at the minute, but when we used to install Epsons, we'd always install them with the Epson wide color gamut. Is that what you guys do?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so you're familiar with that one already. If you need to show customer how to change like rendering intents and stuff, then you just click on change profiles. Yeah. And then you get this little box up, and here's our various management settings for CMYK and vector. Those all our rendering intents.
Do you suggest changing those or just leave them perceptual?
I always I tend to just we tend to set them up on perceptual. I mean, what have you guys done in the past, or do you not tend to mess with that? We've
not really done a great deal. I mean, I have done some training with I1 and stuff, but I think photographically, which is where we're from, it's always been perceptual. So if that's what you do, then let's just leave it at perceptual.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, to be fair, it's not something that our engineers would have gone into great detail, because as you guys know, the differences between these can get very, very complicated, and explaining them to customers that just don't really they're just not that deep into it. It's not normally needed. So we just tend to leave it like this. We always leave these settings. So Epson wide version 2 for CMYK image and vector, and then for RGB stuff we always use Adobe RGB 1998.
Okay.
So are all those settings default then? Nothing actually is changing, or?
It might be worth checking. You may need to. Again, I'm the sales guy, so I don't install these. So I'm not sure how it works from default. So yeah, it may be that you need to change it. It may be that when you bring in the Epson wide input profile, it may be that all this changes, accordingly to that. But yeah, just put a note on that one that you might just need to, to check it.
Yeah, I've got a couple of pictures now, so I can just patch them up.
Can I ask you something about the print mode as well? Obviously, it's all about speed and quality payoff, but
yeah.
So you've got a 360. Is that 360 dots per inch, or 720 by 1440 and 720 by 1440? What's the difference between the two of those?
It's the way it's more to do with the way it's going to rip it, and essentially, 16 passes 720 by 720 by 1440 is going to take up a lot more space as a temporary file when it's ripped.
Right.
I tend to do everything myself on the highest settings, but then customers, are space sensitive. They'll probably tend to do it on the lower settings. So obviously this part here is your resolution, but the first part that is the rip resolution, if you like.
Okay. Yeah, and then
so again, I do everything on the higher side. But if customers are space sensitive and they keep all their jobs and they keep a record of stuff, then yeah, ultimately if you're ripping everything at 720, it's going to be taking up more space than ripping it 360.
But the actual quality of the work is determined by the second bit, which is essentially the pass rate.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So that's why we go to 8 pass high quality is 720 by 720, but then we go up to like the 16 pass and we're then at 720 by 1440.
Yeah.
From my experience, the main thing that you guys are going to be installing really is going to be 8600s. We sell way more 8600s than we do anything else. And from sort of experience, six pass is more than acceptable for just standard day-to-day stuff. Anything you need some quality, I always go with 8 pass high quality. And sometimes, depending on the colours and the type you're printing, you're going to need to up it to 12 or 16. For example, if you're printing, I've got customers that bought 8600s and all they do is print 4 rolls of block colour. So 50 metre rolls of block colour. And depending on the colour, this is where you may need to up it to 12 or 16 pass.
Yeah.
I guess this is all irrelevant for an install, but yeah, any info you guys need, any light I can shed, yeah, just ask, and I can give you my 2 pence. But yeah, 8 pass high quality is the sweet spot. Yeah. And then normally you might need, like for example, this roller banner, because it's got there's some black in there, there's a lot of gradient in there. That's something that 8 pass, you may start to see a little bit of banding within the black and on the on the transitions.
Yeah.
And which is where I would then up it till to 12 pass.
Yeah. So I think the message
600 have to be a high pass because it's only 4 colour.
Sorry.
Well, the 4600 will that have to be a different pass rate because it's only 4 colour, or should it be 5?
Again, really, it depends on the complexity of what you're printing. The 4 colour may, if you give the 4 colour a difficult colour, for example, then it's probably going to struggle more than the 8600 would. So again, that might be where you need to up the pass rate. I mean, the golden rule to me is if there's no defaults with the printer and all the nozzles are in check, if it's banding, you're printing it too fast. Simple as that. Obviously, if they're go on.
After you.
I was just going to say, if there's nozzles out and stuff like that, then that's more than likely going to be the culprit. But if everything is as it should be, and you're printing something that's banding, quite simply, you need to up the pass rate. You're pushing it too far, and it's the machine. The banding is the machine saying, I'm struggling to print this. This is too difficult.
So I think the message is. Sorry, Karen.
Obviously, you guys being engineers, there are a load of other things that come into this. It could be humidity, it could be temperature in the environment, it could be the fact that the vinyl's not warmed up enough before they print. But if all the boxes are ticked and everything is as it should be, then banding is ordinarily just going to be you're printing it too fast, slow it down and, you know, and up that pass rate.
So I would say, Michael, you go 8 pass. So you set it for 8 pass high quality, but then obviously show them there are other modes and they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
And the reason is that sometimes you may see banding in greens are a particularly bad one, and that grey that's on the PRN is bad on 8 pass. On some machines it's okay, but it's just on the edge. But that's when you up the pass rate.
And will the colour management, X and Y gamut colour, be the same on a 46 as well? Will that be the same?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we installed all the Epson printers under the Epson White.
Okay, okay. And how do the machines get to site? Are they already on the stand, or?
Sorry, how do the machines what?
How do the machines arrive on site?
So we send them out in the crates. So we're sending them out in, you know, the crates like 3 meters long by, you know, by 1200 wide by about 1500 high. So that's always how we send them out. So yeah, customer unload it with a forklift. And essentially, when you guys arrive, the printer should just be sat there in the crate, you know, ready for you to do your bit.
Okay, okay.
But they'll have people there to help to put it on the stand, yeah, because he can't lift it on his own.
Yeah, absolutely. What we'll do moving forward is we always get a site document filled out by the customer, which kind of makes sure all the relevant boxes are ticked.
Yeah.
So I think Lou spoke to you about it, Darren, earlier in the week. So we'll set before you go off and do the install. And yeah, that's one of the things in the site's documents. Do you have, you know, 6 people available to help lift this on? Yeah, and it goes through all the other specifics, like have you got space? Is your PC up to spec? Because, you know, in the early days before we did all this, we'd turn up to install stuff and it, you know, it wouldn't fit through doors and PCs wouldn't be up to spec and wouldn't run the software properly. So yeah, these site surveys we do, they make sure, you know, all the boxes are ticked without us physically going now. So we'll send those through to you. And also that'll be an opportunity for you guys. You know, you've got more experience with install than we have. You know, so that'd be an opportunity for you to say, Chris, I don't know about this, mate. You know, this door's not wide enough, or you know, I don't know how we're going to get this up here, or yeah, it just gives you an opportunity to intervene and you know, and kind of raise any concerns.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're the main point of contact when we're on site. Yeah.
It depends really. As I said to Darren, you know, I do lots of meetings, I do lots of demonstrations. So I'm not somebody who's just sat at his desk, always there to be able to help. So I'd probably say your best point of contact would be Louise.
Okay.
Because Louise is, you know, his service manager. Yeah, by all means, try me. You know, give me a shout, and if I'm available, I'll certainly try and help you out. But yeah, I'm not always available.
So, cheers.
Okay, we always leave this switched on. Use spot color replacement table. So yeah, just make sure that one's ticked. And then down here, this one doesn't have a cut path. But if we did have a cut path in here, you click on this, and we'd see our magenta line appear. You know, wherever it needs to be cut. And this is also where we add our cutter as well. So if it's a cut job, we need to select the relevant cutter here, and that's pretty much it. As soon as you hit apply, Onyx now knows to print your job with the Suma S1 series cut registration marks.
So the cut path is put on in the artwork?
Absolutely, yeah. I tell you what, let me just open the other one, because this one has got a cut line on. So yeah, the cut line's put in Adobe Illustrator. These are just some A4 samples that we flex cut on the Suma. And yeah, you can see that's how you know the RIP's picking up the cut information. If you put a cut line in and you can't see it, and you've clicked on preview cut path, then yeah, there's something not right there. The cut path isn't right. So you should definitely be able to see it when you click on this.
And is that a specific layer that they put into Illustrator that's named cut or something?
It's not a specific layer. What you do is you set it up as a spot color. You call it cut contour.
Yeah.
So capital C, capital C contour. And you set it to 100% magenta. And that, you know, the cut contour wording is the part that the RIP will essentially understand. I think the magenta's there for us so that we can very clearly see the cut lines.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rip's looking for cut contour. It's a little bit like when you print with white or silver on the 8600.
Yeah.
The rip's looking for spot one. And it's looking for spot one then. So when we set our white and our silver stuff up in Illustrator, we're setting those layers up as spot one.
Yeah. That's both white and metallic. Is they're both called spot one.
Yeah, because obviously on the 80 you're only ever going to have one of
or
those
the other.
loaded in at any one time. So whatever's loaded into that last slot, that is spot one.
Right. Okay. But of course, if there's just cleaner in there, it won't print.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You just end up with a colour image and no silver or no white come out. There is. I'll show you a bit later. There is a way of telling to see if the files, have worked. If they are going to print correctly, they kind of change colour and give you an indication that that's working.
Yeah.
But I'll show you that when we move on to the next bits.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys aware of how to actually add a cutter?
No.
No.
Okay.
He frozen.
And that's how you add a cut.
You got a network port on that? I just wonder if it's worth plugging in. Oh.
Let me come back to you on that. What I'll do after the session, I'll just have a quick play around rather than trying to do this now. I'll have a quick play around. There's a menu somewhere that it gets you into a place where you can say, right, I've got a Suma S1, and then once you've then selected it, it will then put it into this drop-down menu here. So I'll drop you an email after with the details of that one, okay?
I think that was done on install because my list is massively longer than yours. I must have about 30 cutters in my contour cutter selection. So I've got Roland's, Mimaki's, Graphtec, Suma. So I think it must have been done when I installed it.
You installed Onyx and it's added all those in automatically, yeah?
It's either added them in automatically or I was just click happy and tick them all in, but I've got loads of them in there.
Right, okay.
And I didn't specifically add any one cutter. I just sort of said, I want to cut, and then it put them all in. I've got loads of them.
Well, I'll find out where it is after because there's a menu somewhere that they're all ticked and you can basically untick them.
Okay.
Because if the customer's got 100 cutters in there, it might get a little bit confusing. So we would untick them all and only select the ones that the customer's got, so they get a much cleaner, drop-down menu like this.
Gotcha.
But I'll drop you an email after rather than trying to go, flick through menus now. I'll figure it out after. Drop you an email now. And that'll just tell you exactly how to connect the cutters. Quite a lot of these we do sell to people that have already got a Suma cutter.
Yeah.
And obviously, every now and then we'll do a deal where it'll be a printing cut bundle with a Suma. I know you guys haven't had the Suma training or anything yet. We'll talk about that. I guess a little bit later on down the line.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how you change all your various print settings. We then go to the next tab, which is preview and size.
Could we just go back to the color management stuff? Sorry, could you go back to the color management stuff? Can you just go back to the color management stuff because you've got the media group and that picks up the correct ICC profile? Is that right?
No, the media group. This is just like the category almost. So you've got monomeric, polymeric, window films, cast, textile, speciality, and then you've then got the brand. So when you download the profile or when you sync the profile from the Epson, you don't choose this. It will just put it wherever whatever's written in the profile.
Gotcha.
So these I've not told it to put it here. It's just put it there automatically. Some of them are set up by brand. some of them are set up like this instead. It just depends
Okay.
on where you're downloading the profile from.
Gotcha.
We'll talk about profiles a little bit later
Okay.
on, because obviously with Epson you've got the EMX profiles, but you've then got also, you know, external profiles made by Arlon and Avery and so on. So
Yeah.
we'll have a quick look at that, okay?
Mhm.
And then obviously your media name, that's your profile now. Your media name, that's your profile.
Right.
MS. You won't always see this, but MS is metallic silver and W is white. So if you've got
Yeah.
a brick white and you're on MPI 2000, Onyx will not give you the layer settings needed to do white or metallic silver. You have to select that there. But we never got into the white and silver on install. You know, we advertise it as introductory training, and you know, showing customers you know, how to print the white and set the files up. You know, that's all a little bit more advanced. So that's something that they would learn when they go to see Paul at Epson.
Gotcha.
But that's, you know, in case you ever get a call or, you know, someone rings you and says, hey, you know, it's not working. Yeah, it needs to be selected here.
Yeah.
And then color, just normal color, is one without MS or W.
Yeah.
And then obviously your various pass rates. These pass rates will change as well depending on what material you've selected. If we select a banner material, for example, you see all the resolutions have disappeared. You know, all we've now got is production 360 and production 720. They're both relatively low quality modes because it's a banner.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, customers aren't printing banner in any type of you know, of high quality.
Yeah.
Or if they are, they're wasting their money doing it.
Yeah.
Whenever you make any changes here as well, this is quite important. If you make any changes, it will come up with this little red warning, and you need to hit apply to apply those changes. I'm pretty sure if you start changing tabs without applying, it may not apply the settings. So yeah, just hit apply before you move on to the next tab.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is all your preview and size. So this is all dead simple. We can very easily rescale things. You know, if I'm typing 500 here, it's going to rescale it. And at the minute, because the chain is linked, it's going to rescale it and keep the aspect ratio intact. So it will always be the same shape essentially.
Yeah.
If you want to just make it wider and not higher, then just like most software, you just click the chain. And then you can then change these independently. If it ever starts doing funny stuff, which I'll be honest, when I show you tiling later, every now and then Onyx kind of craps out a bit. It won't crash, but it just doesn't necessarily do what you want it to. So if it's ever not playing ball, and it's always on size stuff like this, just hit reset. And it'll just take you back to how you were at the start. Tiling, you know, if you start changing things in different orders, it can then start giving you funny tiling results. So again, you can just reset it and start again. So yeah, that's my advice. If it's not playing ball, just reset it with the button and just, you know, go for it again. Rotation, pretty simple. You know, we can rotate it. Again, the only reason I use that is so that it comes out the printer the right way. Because yeah, when customers stood next to me, print's coming out backwards. It's just stupid. So yeah, and that's pretty much it for that. We didn't really ever use this PS PDF setup. In fact, I'll be honest, I don't know what it even does. But it's not a function that, you know, our customers use or would expect.
Where's
to
that
be
one,
shown
sorry?
on. So we now go on to patterns. Now this is a Thrive. This is the Thrive thing, and Poster Shop as well. You don't get this on Rip Center, but step and repeat essentially is just repeating the jobs multiple times. So it's really useful when you're doing things like printing A4 samples, for example.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get that on Poster Shop either, because I've only got Poster Shop.
Okay, so it's Thrive only then.
Yes.
This one is Thrive only. It is. I mean, Onyx is a bit disappointing in that respect because, you know, these are features that you get on most rips. You know, VersaWorks for the Rolands is free, you know, and you get this feature on there. But with Onyx, customer has to pay extra for it.
Yeah.
It's real simple to use. The first thing I always do is this looks confusing, and the reason being is it's not white in between the copies. and it's because the gap color is set to first pixel. I always set it to white, which gives us it gives us a much cleaner indication if I put some gaps in it.
Yeah.
I didn't realise it didn't have the gaps in. If I go back to first pixel, you see how it all just kind of blurs into one almost.
Yeah.
I always put white, and then you can clearly see. So anyway, here's your horizontal repeats. Now, for some reason, it always does this. You can see I put 10 mil in. Now, if I change this to 5, oh no, but no, we can't go that wide, in fact. Right, because of the width, because the material loaded, it looks like we can't go any wider.
Yeah.
No, so the maximum width on this one is 4, and then we then put our horizontal gap in. We then go down to vertical repeats. Say we want 5 of those. You can then put a vertical gap in as well. And the reason for the gaps, just so you know, obviously you'd think, yeah, maximise media, don't put white in. But if you're cutting this on a plotter, especially when you're flex cutting, so when I cut these on a plotter, the plotter will cut nearly all the way through it. And I just literally give it a flick and it'll fall out. Now, if there isn't enough white left in there or enough media, as you're cutting it, it will lose structure, it'll just fall apart. And the cutter will crash. You'll head crash the cutter, and it'll be a complete mess. So if I'm cutting loads of things like A4 samples, I tend to normally put an inch in between everything.
Yeah.
And then again, when you're cutting, imagine you've now got loads of A4s cut out on a roll of vinyl that's being rolled up and going backwards and forwards through a cutter. Without these white borders in, it just loses structure. It falls apart, and it just mess everything up. So. And that's pretty much step and repeat.
Yeah.
Colorways, I won't show you that because it's a Thrive feature and you have to pay for it as well. It's quite expensive, and only the biggest kind of color management companies would use something like that, and they then tend to use other solutions anyway. So you don't need to know what that is, and you're never going to get asked about it either. Okay, tiling. So this is another feature that you only get on the higher versions. In fact, let me just switch the step and repeat off. There we go into tiling. Enable tiling. Now again, with tiling, if you change these in different orders and you do this first and then go back to this one, as I said, it can end up doing some weird things. So if it's not doing what you want it to do or what it should be doing, just hit reset all tiles and have another crack at it. But yeah, we can set 2 columns. No, in fact, there's only one here. Now you see the lines starting to appear.
Yeah.
Now this is only an A4 sample, so you'd never do this. But imagine if this was wallpaper now. Then yeah, we could tile it up. If it's a really high wall, then we can start putting the horizontal tiles in. And that's why now we've set it up here. If we go down here and start changing things, this is where it can mess it up. You change the size. If you change the size of each width, then that's obviously going to have effect on the total amount of tiles. You can also put your overlap on as well. Now we always use overlap. Whenever we're tiling anything, we always use overlap. I tend to use like 10 or 20 mil, and this is, to be honest, it's not as important on the Epsons because they're so good. But things like latex, when you get all kinds of stretch and distortion, and the overlaps really help.
And how would you
see it?
And presumably when you print that, you flip each one, is that right? You're supposed to kind of mirror.
Again, it depends what you're printing it on. If I was printing on an 8600, no need.
Okay.
If I was printing on a latex 700, absolutely flip every tile, no questions asked.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really just depends. But you guys, the Epsons, from my perspective, we sell Canon, we sell Rolands. There's about 25 different printers we sell. Onyx proof is that 8600 is better than anything. Still, I know it's 6-7 years old now, but there's still nothing out there it does colouring quality like the Epson. You know, I'm stood next to a 50 grand Canon now. In a printer, a full roll of vinyl in 20 minutes. But it doesn't print anything like the Epson. The colour's nowhere near as good. Yeah, so, and because the Epson's got the back motor as well, the back motor really helps kind of reduce that skew, which means tiling's an absolute breeze. Whereas if you've got a latex, tiling can be an absolute nightmare, and flipping the tiles alternatively can really help.
Right.
Also, you can submit it as separate jobs. So at the minute, if I submit this, it's just going to put it in as one job in the job queue. Whereas if we do submit as separate, we'll essentially get 10 different files, appear on the screen. And that might be just maybe you want to print some now and print some later. Maybe you're going out for a couple of hours and you don't want the printer going while you're going out. So yeah, you can submit them as separate jobs. Okay.
Yeah.
Marks as well. You can enable overlap marks. So these are just little tools that customers can use to make it a little bit easier. Imagine when you do this one's quite easy, but some wallpaper tiles, they all look the same. So having overlap marks in there and having numbering and stuff like that, it really helps. And you can also do a tile map as well. So what that'll do is when you print the job, it will print a little page underneath it to show you kind of like what we can see on the screen now. It'll show you how the tiles are split down in what order they're in.
Yeah.
So again, you don't need to show the customer all of this, necessarily. But yeah, if you ever get asked, we printed tiles and we've got no idea what's going on. Yeah, print the tile map with it, and that'll make it a lot easier for the install guys when it comes to install time.
Yeah.
Then enable, and it's gone off again. Okay, so color correction. Again, we don't go into this deep with customers. This you start changing ink levels and stuff like that. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to cause more trouble than good. So we don't really go into any great detail on this. One thing that is super, super handy is color replacements. So you click on the little tools menu, color replacements. That brings up this little screen. Now what we can do, if we click on the plus, click on the current color, grab the color dropper, and we'll grab that orange. We'll just change a few of these. And essentially what that's doing now is once we can, this is now saved in there, okay? So this is now in the RIP. And it means that whenever Onyx sees this color here, the orange, it will automatically replace it to pink. Or to whatever color you choose. Now the reason you might need to do that is when you're color matching. I'll show you a feature a little bit later on called swatch books. But when you use swatch books, essentially you color match, and you then tell Onyx manually the color references to swap it with, and that's what this is used for here. So some customers they've got hundreds of these. They've literally got hundreds of these set up, and they'll just put in their jobs, and then Onyx will just know straight away. That color needs to be swapped for this color. We need to do that with this color. If you're ever tweaking things and changing them, this can automatically swap everything around for you.
And how do you add that color replacement as a global thing? Or is that already done?
In what respect?
So if you do the color replacement stuff, it's then appearing in the box on the left. Is that a global thing? Does that happen for every single job you print, or is it just for this particular job?
You can. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, and you can just keep inserting more, can't you?
Leave it in there. Yeah, I always delete them.
Right.
I always tend to delete them because I'm not doing repeat stuff. But yeah, you can just leave it in there, and then they'll just build up over time. Again, it just takes care of all those automatic. Yeah, if you've done a color match, say you put a job in and you printed a red, you print it and the red doesn't look like what you want it to. Okay, that's just say you got a 4-color printer and the gamut's not great, and the red doesn't look as you want it to. You can then essentially use some of the functionality to find the best red, and then this is then where you'd say, right, whenever you see this red, change it to these CMYK settings, which would which would give you a red.
Yeah.
So now, whenever we see that orange, it will change it to red. So yeah, again, some customers have got hundreds of these, just set up on the left. Personally, I'd probably just go back and amend the artwork, but the functionality is there if you need it. If say you have to reinstall Onyx or something, you might end up losing all this stuff, and yeah, that's me personally. I'll just do it in the artwork. What else we've got? Primary color levels again. Don't ever tend to mess with that. If I ever need to change ink levels, I'll literally change the linearization data instead of messing around with this. Color and grey levels, again, only comes into play when you're doing grayscale, but if customers want to mess around with that, they can. You can change the various color limits, but again, this is more advanced stuff, and I don't think you'll see any of this on non-Thrive versions anyway. Because, or maybe PosterShop as well. You need at least PosterShop to be able to create and edit ICC profiles within Onyx. So the rip center that most people get with their Epson printer, they can't mess with that. They can't create profiles, they can't change them. And the functionality is a lot more limited. Named color replacements as well is where we can call a color in the artwork. Say we're an illustrator, we make a color and we call it red. Yeah, we actually label the color red. We can then, in the rip, we can say, right, whenever you see the words red, you need to change it for this color instead. So same as color replacement, except we're looking for a word, a color name instead of a color breakdown.
Yeah.
So again, like perf cut contour. Do you remember I said about cut contour earlier? Perf cut contour just means it will cut the dotted line instead. But essentially here, what you could do is anywhere it sees perf cut contour, it's going to make it 100% magenta. Yeah. I can't actually think of any specific use cases where you'd use that, but that's what it is, and that's what it does. Okay, it mentions swatch books down there. We will look at swatch books, but we'll look at that after because it's kind of a separate thing almost. We then go to finishing. So finishing, this is where we can add bleed. So if you want to add bleed onto your textile canvas frame, you can do all that in here. So top, bottom, left, right, mirror the bleed. And then you can add trim boxes around stuff as well. You can add bleed marks. Yeah, these are all just little kind of nuances. Some customers use them. Some customers set all this stuff up in the artwork. Some customers are sending their jobs through, and all this stuff is predetermined in Adobe Illustrator. We can also add grommets. So if this was a banner, for argument's sake, we can add. So you just about see it. So we've now added in 4 eyelet holes. We can control the spacing. So if you want them every 200 millimeters, we put them every 200 millimeters instead. And this will actually print them on the graphic. So when it comes, once your banner is printed, they know exactly where to put the eyelet press and where to eyelet these. You can offset it if you need to. But as default, everything is kind of, what's the word? I guess uniform. Everything is kept to the same aspect.
Should that be putting the grommets on the artwork? See that?
No. This example's different.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see. I'm just following you with my one, and I can't see the.
But yeah, ordinarily you would do. Say you've got a blue banner and it's all blue, then yeah, absolutely, the eyelets would be in there. They'd probably be more towards the corner and, you know, the top and the bottom. These are probably a little bit far down, but yeah, that's, you know, it needs to be printed on the artwork. So then, otherwise, what you have to do, you have to print the banner, get your ruler, and you have to measure all along and then mark it out yourself. That might take 5-10 minutes to do, whereas we've just done it in 10 seconds.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's just mine's not drawing them on the artwork. That was all. I can't see. I'm just following exactly what you do, and I can't. Mine aren't going on my preview, so I.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Did you click all of these, and have you clicked the style of?
Yeah, I've clicked the style. I've got exactly the same as you. I've upped the size to 150. Well, 50.8 is the maximum I can use, but it wasn't just appearing. I don't know why. I've got the offsets, 25.4.
Try doing a reset.
Oh,
Just
okay.
hit the reset. That's essentially started it again, and then click the two top ones on first.
What's the two top
My
ones?
styles are already selected. Look, as soon as I click those on, my grommets have already come up because I've already got this one here selected.
Yeah, don't see why that's not working. Okay, I can't. So you.
Is your file black?
No, it's a horrible blue.
Well, that's one thing to note. Is you click on there, and here, we can do a solid line, a dotted line, or alternative line. We can tell it how thick we want it, but more importantly, we can tell it the color. So if you're printing a black banner and you don't change that, or say you're printing a red banner and you want it to be noticeable.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I presume with white, I guess it may say if your banner was black and you choose that to white, it's not going to print it with white ink, but it's just not going to print any black ink there. So you see the grommet mark clearly, where it's just unprinted in the white media is showing through.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, this I'm pretty sure this isn't on Rip Center. These are either Poster Shop or Thrive level, accessories, or add-ons.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, and then marks. I use this one all the time. When you're printing like roller banners or banners, for example, that tend to have white on there. This just allows you to put your kind of edge marks in. So when we go to cut it, imagine you print something with a white background, you print it on white media, you go to cut it, and you're like, crap, I have no idea where the cut line is. So with this, you can just put these little kind of registration marks in. They'll print on the graphic, and then you can see exactly where you need to cut then. But really only used if your graphic has a white background and you're not going to see the edge of it. If your graphic's got a definitive edge to it, then you wouldn't necessarily need to use that. Something like this, I would use them on this, because although once this is printed, we can clearly see the colour, you won't see this bottom line.
Yeah.
So you'll have no idea where to cut it off. So that's one of the places I would use it. Okay, we can do print labels as well. So this is just going to put various bits of information onto the job. So we click on enable, click on setup, and then essentially you tell it what you want it to print with. So here we can put order data on there, job file names, whips, profiles. If we're tiling, that's worth noting. If you're doing tiles and stuff, then you really want to be printing these numbers on there, because that will essentially tell you that this tile here is tile number 2. And then when you look at your little printed tile map, it will say this one here is number 2, and you can marry everything up. So if you're tiling, I would definitely make sure these are selected. Print. This is just printer information, resolutions, dots, sort of thing that I use when I'm printing samples. So I'll print samples for customers, and then they can see all the color modes and all the various info that I printed it on. Some people like to see that sort of stuff. And then not so much here, but yeah, some businesses may want to know exactly when it was printed and how long it took and everything else. We can embed an image label as well. So say a customer's got they want their logo at the bottom corner of every print, we can do that here. And we can also generate a QR code as well. So if we select this, it will generate the QR code for us. So once we hit OK, it will generate a QR code for us based on these specifics, which it's getting from up here and the various settings of the job. Not something that I tend to use, but again, to some customers that could be really useful. And then the last tab is print. So yeah, here, how many copies you want. Gives you little bits of information like how long the total print area for the job, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for the job lot. Now what happened now is when we send it through, it'll rip it and it'll get it ready. We can hold it for the operator, which means it won't rip anything, it won't do anything. It'll just put it in the queue, and it'll wait. It will await some human intervention. Now we've got these various bits up the top. Really, the only bits that are relevant to what we're looking at now is you've got the zoom buttons. So if you want to zoom in, maybe you're using a color picker and you want to pick a color that's very small. We can control that here. And really, that's all you need for the job editor. So when everything's done and you're happy, just hit print. Come into the queue now. It's rip in. Don't know why it's taking so long being an A4 sample. Hardly very demanding, but yeah, that's now ready to go.
Yeah.
Now, when we did the job editor, we right-clicked and we went job editor. You can adjust some of the basic properties just by double-clicking, left double-clicking on the job. That brings up this screen, and now if you're not looking to edit, if you just want to change some profiles, change your pass rates, maybe just adjust the size and the orientation, then you can do all that literally by just double clicking on the job. So again, if I've got lots of files in there and all I'm doing is changing the pass rate, for example, then yeah, you can do that a lot quicker in this screen. Now, quick sets. So if we go up to the top, do you guys know about quick sets?
Not really, no.
Okay, so quick set is basically a set of standard instructions, and when we bring the job in, if we bring it in under the quick set, it will apply all the quick set settings to that particular job. So for example, we may have a quick set for wallpaper, and within the job, you've got tiling settings already enabled. It will always pick the profile for wallpaper, it will pick the color management for wallpaper, it may crop everything down automatically for you. We can control all of this in the quick set. So at the minute we're on default, and we can see here that my default quick set, Avery Dennison MPI 2000, 6-pass print. We're going to be using the Epsom wide color gamut. Here we can change some of the sizing rules. We can mirror it. Say if it's a quick set for window graphics, we might want to mirror it so everything's in reverse. But yeah, essentially we can change most of the settings that I just took you through are in this menu. It's a lot crapper to look at, but they are all in this menu. And if you go to advanced, there's even more settings in here. So here's how we set up tiling. Again, it's all the same as the other screens. We've just lost the look and feel that we did of the job editor. But like, so yeah, if we look at, so on the Canon, for example, I've got all these quick sets. And the reason being is when I'm doing a demonstration, I don't want to be having to be messing around with too many settings. So, if I'm printing photos for a customer, I'll click on the photos quick set, and that means that when my job comes in, it will apply all the photos settings, which would be a higher pass rate, higher quality, different color management. Yeah. So quick sets are really, really, really useful. One thing you may need to do when you set the machines up is just check the default. You guys don't need to be adding quick sets or anything like that, but there should be a default in there And what I would do is I would just double check the default, because just say for argument's sake is set to like 4 pass or something, you're going to then go away and, you know, and drive home and, you know, get on with your day. Customer then starts printing stuff. It's all coming out really crap because it's everything they're doing is defaulting to that, you know, to that 4 pass mode. So it'd be worth just, you know, going into the default quick set and just making sure there's some sensible settings in there. I'd probably go 8 pass high quality like that.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you can override all this stuff in the job editor, but right now, if I bring a new job in on the 8600, it's going to apply that default quick set to it. If I bring in a job on the Canon Colorado and it's some wallpaper or some wall coverings, it's going to apply this quick set to it. It will ask you when you open the file. In fact, let me do that quickly. So we open a file, click on the file here, and then you can see that we want to open it in the 8600 and we want to use the default quick set. Or maybe we want to open it on the Colorado and we're going to use the map production preset. So these are more like automation tools, and they really are useful, but there'll be a default quick set in there. And if the settings are silly, then yeah, customer may not realise that that's what's happening, and they're like, you know, I'm printing stuff and it's, you know, it's all coming out really bad, and yeah, it may be because the quick set is applying settings that are, you know, that are silly. A few other things you can do here, like you can open it in the job editor, for example. It doesn't really change anything. It's just how, you know, these are just preferences. It's how you prefer it to work. Okay. So if we just run through the stuff at the top. In fact, no, sorry. Before we do that, there's a couple of things over here. So we've got current media and page size. So this is where ordinarily this is where your printer will tell Onyx what media is loaded in and what size it is. Now, for some reason, my Epson is stopped communicating properly with Onyx automatically. So I have to manually update everything at the minute. I have to get the size from the screen and type it in myself, but it shouldn't be doing that. I need to get it looked at. It shouldn't be doing that. So ordinarily, you know, this would automatically communicate with the Epson, and it would know that we've got MPI 2000 loaded in. And once the Epson's loaded it and the width comes up on the screen, Onyx should also know the width, you know, the width that the printer can print to.
Yeah.
But for some reason, mine's not running properly at the minute, and I'm having to manually add all my sizes in. If you don't have the right size in there, you'll go to print a graphic, and it just either come out too small or too big. But hey, that looks a bit small, and yeah, that's because it thinks the media you're printing on is either bigger or larger than it really is, and it messes everything up. So you shouldn't need to do that. You shouldn't manually need to change it. It should, you know, it should be set to automatically update media, and that's what it should do. Okay, we've then got this little button here, which is our placement. So this is where we can say, yeah, we want it to print, you know, 2 inches in from the, you know, from the left. We want left justification, right, or you know, or center. We can tell it about gutter, and we can also automatically start printing as well. So essentially, once the job's been ripped and it falls into the queue, it will automatically start printing. Most customers don't use that. You know, I don't use that. I like a little bit more control. You know, I want to start my jobs off. I want to do it when I want, not when Onyx tells me. So. But you can do that if, you know, if customers are looking for a bit more of an automatic workflow. And you can actually set that up in the quick set as well. So you could literally bring a job in on the quick set, it will apply loads of settings to it, it'll rip it, and then it'll print it. And you haven't even looked at Onyx, you know, you haven't even opened the job editor. So it can be automated really, really nicely. But again, these are very advanced things now that, you know, people aren't really going to expect you to be showing them. You know, a lot of this functionality isn't in Rip Center anyway. Yeah. Any questions thus far?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. We then got the options tab, and again, this is, you know, these are just like the little preferences. So I use this one all the time. So this is telling us how much space we want between copies. For example, when I print vehicle wrap stuff, we sometimes we laminate it on the Rolls roller. The Rolls roller is only 4 meters big, so what I might want to do is print 5 of the same job, but have a 500 mil gap in between it, so that when I cut it, I've got enough runoff to put into the into the laminator and get a proper decent laminated result.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can set space in between copies. Say you've got stickers, loads of little stickers as well, for example, then you can set that here. Do you remember when we did step and repeat?
Yeah.
You can almost do that here as well. Say you put 1 sticker in, you could put 100 copies, and then you could just say that between each sticker, I want a 10 mil gap. So that's almost doing what step and repeat does, but just a little bit, a little bit cruder.
Yeah.
And a little bit less visual. And that's pretty much all I use on this. I don't ever touch any of this stuff. Yeah, this is all just default. Okay, right, so we'll have a look at some of the bits up top. So the layout tool, this is an optional extra with Thrive. I don't even think you get it anymore, and it doesn't work very well. So I really wouldn't ever get into that. Don't just ignore it exists. Essentially, it's somewhere where you can put a spreadsheet in, and say you're printing, I don't know, 1,000 stickers. You can use the spreadsheet to create variable data that would put a different number, for example, on each sticker. So you could have sticker 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And all of that would be controlled by the layout tool. But it's old. It's not, Onyx update Onyx every year or every couple of years, whereas this layout tool was made years ago. It's not really been updated, and it's a bit clunky. So yeah, I would just completely stay away from it. Now, cut server. So this one here, we've got Suma S1 series. So this was going to be a cut job. Now, you won't see it in the cut server at the minute, but as soon as we print this, as soon as we send this to the printer, if you open up cut server, that job will appear in cut server. So this is what customers use to cut their jobs. They can obviously use other softwares. They can use Suma's own software, but if you want to use Onyx to cut, then that's how you do it. So you click on cut server. The job that you've just printed will either be at the top or the bottom. And you can see it's pretty simple. There's a copy of our job. Each one of these, represents a cut line. You find your relevant job. This is the way that we're going to feed it through the cutter. Obviously, these all look the same, but a job like this, you can clearly see that, yeah, this is going to be going in last. And these funny shapes and these diagonal lines are going to be fed through the cutter first. And then over here, we can just change some of the settings. Now, all I really ever do on this one, this will show you that the cut file is working properly. As we hover over it, we can see these all highlighted green. If they stay black, then we might have a problem here. Or if there are parts that we're missing, there's something wrong with the cut file. The cut file it isn't complete. And then cutter setting. Now, some people might want to set the settings up within here. Me personally, I set all my settings up on my Suma. So I've got lots of flex cut settings in there. I've got different profiles in there. So I set everything up on the Suma, which means you then need to say manual device settings. If you leave it to job default and hit cut, it's going to use all these settings here, and you're not necessarily going to get the right result if you set all these up on your cutter. So by changing it to manual device, that now says when this job hits the cutter knows to use the settings stored inside it rather than the settings that have come across by Onyx.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. Cutting really is as simple as that. You need to have the cut line, the cut contour, that needs to be in there. You need to switch it on in the job editor. You need to select your cutter from the drop-down menu. Once you print, automatically this goes into cut server. You open cut server up, and 9 times out of 10, all I'm really doing is clicking on that, and then hitting cut now. And you'll know it's worked because if you go over to your cutter, the screen, no matter what colour it is, the screen will pretty much be saying, job received, set to above, first registration mark. What it'll say will depend on the cutter, but yeah, this will send it to the cutter, and then you can then activate the job once you get to the cutter.
But that will only work if there's a cut contour in the artwork.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. No cut contour, no cut. It will not recognise that it needs to be cut. Every now and then you might forget to do that, and you print 28 A4 samples. You go to cut them, and yeah, there's no cut data there. So out comes the ruler and the scalpel, and yeah, the cut data. Let me go back a second. This is why when we go into the job editor. Oh, sorry, wrong one. When we go into the job editor, if it's printing cut, this is why I always do preview cut path, because that will show you that it's worked.
Yeah.
If I hit preview cut path there and nothing comes up, your file's not right. There's something wrong in your file. So yeah, I always use that as the test. I'll click on that, and yeah, if my magenta line shows I know it's worked, that means Onyx will pick it up, and everything's going to be exactly as it should be. Just got to make sure you select the right cutter. The reason you select cutters is different brands have different reg marks. Sumo's got barcodes with horizontal lines. Some companies have, some of these companies actually patent the registration pattern. So that's why everyone's kind of got a different pattern, or you'll get sued. You'll get sued for copying Sumo's registration mark. So yeah, that's all this is really doing, is it's telling Onyx that, hey, we need to put these registration marks on, instead of ones for a different cutter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could you, while I remember making notes, could you send us a couple of sample artworks with the cutter lines in, so ones that we can demo to the customer while we're on site?
Yeah,
Is that
absolutely,
right?
yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'll have a little think about the sort of things that would be useful. I can give you some print files as well.
Yeah.
No problem. Yeah, I'll email those across to you after the call.
Super.
Okay, so yeah, we covered cut server, right, media manager. So this is, if you're going to install any profiles, there's two ways of doing it. So number one, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with, number one is through the Edge dashboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, you download your EMX, you put it into the, you put it into the right queue, you activate it, and then that should automatically sync with Onyx. The EMX profiles, when you switch Onyx off or shut it down, when you put it back on again and it communicates with the printer, you should get a message in the middle of Onyx on the screen come up to say, Avery Dennison MPI 2000 installed or whatever. It should give you a notification, and it should happen automatically. Now, I don't know why it's not coming up, but ordinarily there's a little sync. Now there it is. So we've got this bit here, and then we've got this little tab. Click on that, and you've got sync media types. So if you've installed a profile, whether it be externally or through the EMX, if it's not appearing in Onyx, you need to click on sync media types. So that's over in this panel. This is what you'll see as standard, our media. Click on this little computer with the white information, and sync media types. That's really important. I didn't realise that at one point, and I spent ages trying to work out why my profiles weren't appearing, and it was because I hadn't synced it. So yeah, EMXs, they'll get added through the portal, you'll then sync it, or they'll just come on automatically when you restart Onyx. Nice and easy. Now, if you need to add profiles from, say you've downloaded profiles from Arlon's website, they don't have an EMX profile for Arlon, so you've gone onto the Arlon website or the 3M website, you've downloaded the profile externally. To activate it, we go into Media Manager. I'm not sure why it's going so slowly. So first thing, you need to make sure you've selected the right printer, or you'll end up trying to install an Epson profile on a Canon Colorado. So yeah, click on the right printer from this little list here. Right. Okay. So this is everything I've got installed at the minute. So if you ever wanted to tweak a profile, again, I'm not sure if you guys would ever need to do that, but if you do, then this is, you can only do it with Thrive and PosterShop, but this is how you do it. Essentially, here's all the ICC data here. And this is now taking us into the profile builder, and this is essentially where we want to change our linearization limits. We can do all that in here. This is obviously a lot more advanced, and yeah, really you only need this if you're going to be making your own profiles. But just showing you guys so you know what it is and where it is. If the time ever comes. Do you guys ever profile? Is that something that you guys can do?
No.
Okay.
No. We stick to the stuff we know about, and the colour stuff we sub out.
Got you. We tend to we used to our engineer team used to do a minute bit of profiling every once in a blue moon, but ordinarily we'd get it done through the manufacturer. We'll ask Roland to profile for us. If we've got a nice opportunity for a new Epson machine, we don't have the right profiles for it, then Paul potentially will make us some profiles. But yeah, every now and then we used to get asked by a customer, and we'd essentially go to the site for a day, charge them a day rate, and just make as many profiles as we could, within the time that we had at the premises.
Mm-hmm.
But no, we're not in Media Manager for this. We're in Media Manager so that we can add a new profile. So we're going to import media. I'll be honest, I don't think I have anything to import. But all that would happen is you open you've downloaded the ICC to your desktop. You open it here. Once you open it, it'll just come up with a little box in the middle to say, Avery Dennison MPI 2000. You hit OK, and boom, it's done. That profile is now in Onyx. It will appear in all the Onyx menus. But also, don't forget to then go back to here and again sync media types, because the printer also needs to know that you've installed that.
Yeah. And would that profile be relevant for each of the different pass modes?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I tell you what. Let me go on to a profile website a second, and I'll show you kind of what it looks like.
Because presumably we're going to need, they're going to want us to do this, because I would imagine that the customer's got a specific media that they're going to use, so that we should download and set that media, their most common media up. Or Michael's got, we use IJ40, 3M IJ40, so that might be a good thing to do and just demonstrate how to do it to the customer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, don't get caught up in installing 35 different materials for people, because again that's going beyond the Call of Duty for an initial install. But yeah, I'd probably just say to them, look, what do you use the most? Maybe a self-adhesive. If they do a lot of banner, maybe add a banner for them as well. But yeah, I won't go too silly. If you show them how to do it, that's what I'm showing you now. If you show them how to do it, then they can go off. They can get their own profiles, and they can synchronize it and do it all themselves.
Yeah.
I'll show you this one. This isn't Epson. This is Canon. Just because it happens to be open. But let me just show you what it looks like.
But presumably the Epson one's quite easy. You can just use Edge to download from the website, right?
Yeah, I think Edge. I think when you download the EMX, I think all the different pass rates are within that one EMX.
Yeah.
Whereas when you download profiles externally, like from Canon or from 3M or Avery, they tend to be split down singly per pass rate.
Right.
So you'd have like a 8 pass high quality one. You'd then have a 12 pass one. You'd have a 16 pass one. You might even have a 2 or a 4 pass one in there. So again, you don't necessarily need to install them all. I would just ask the customer what modes they normally print in. Or if it's quicker for you, just chuck them all in. The different pass rates. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so import, add it in there, it will then appear in this list, synchronize it, job done. Anybody who buys poster shop or above, they do have ICC profile functionality. Again, you don't need to ever show them this, but if they want to know how to create the profiles, you just click on new media profile, and then Onyx has got a really nice step-by-step flow. And it kind of tells you what to do as well. It gives you, advice. It tells you what you're looking for. When you print a particular type of test file, it'll say, okay, here, you're looking for this or you're looking for that. So it is relatively, if you know a little bit about profiling, it is relatively straightforward. But yeah, that's how you get into it. Okay.
Yeah.
And also, do you know what customers might do sometimes? Is although when you make a new pass rate, you're supposed to do all the ICC stuff again because the colours can change because the saturation is going to change. But what people do sometimes is say they're printing on 10 pass and they're not getting quite a good enough result, but they've only got a 10 pass profile. They might actually go in and edit the profile and change it to 12 pass. Now again, this could affect the colour because when I print in, we're putting more ink down, which changes all those colour. All those colour measurements, but it is a very quick, easy way of kind of upping a pass rate if you don't have that. So that might be an example where a customer might want to jump in and just tweak a profile. I was doing some colour matching on the Colorado last week, and it's 4 colour, and I was trying to hit a really vibrant red, which was very difficult. It's out of gamut. It's not going to hit it, but I needed to get it as best as possible. So I tried absolutely everything. But what I then did, I went into the profile, and I adjusted those ink limits, and I put the magenta up, I put the yellow down a bit, and ultimately when I reprinted, I did get a stronger red. Still wasn't perfect because it was out of gamut for the printer, but it just allowed me to go in and just quickly tweak those ink limits, which did give me a better red. But then if you print anything else, all the colours now are going to be out the window. If I print anything but red, everything's going to be out the window because I've put that ink level too high, for day to day.
Yeah.
Just for the purpose of getting a decent red.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's, to be fair, that is the bulk of the functionality. There are a few add-on bits. The Onyx Cell color check is one of them. Again, you've got to pay for this. Most customers don't have it. One really useful thing, and anybody who buys poster shop or above gets this, is swatch books. Now, when you've got an 8600, this is the absolute perfect combination. An 8600 with high color accuracy and swatch books. So let me show you what it can do. Again, if you just install poster shop for somebody and they mention swatch books, which they might do because I would have mentioned it to them when I sold it to them. This is essentially how you use it. So the first thing you need to do is you need to set your printer and your profile, and this is imperative because if we're going to do a load of colour matching now, if we change these settings later on down the line, it's going to change the results and everything's out the window. So we need to predetermine now what pass rate we're going to print at, and we're going to need to stick to that as well because again, if we change it, it's going to adjust everything that we're going to do now. So say we're going to try and hit a really hard colour now. I'm going to go 16 pass. I'm going to change it to CMYK. Now this is our starting point, okay? So this is our initial colour reference. And what customers will do is they'll get a Pantone swatch and they'll maybe match it to a Pantone colour. And on the Pantone swatch or on the back of it, you get those CMYK breakdowns. If I go into Google now, just very quickly, you can literally just type, Pantone 491 CMYK, and there'll be a million websites that will give you that CMYK breakdown, okay? So let's just say, I'll just do a random, we'll do this purple, okay? So say, this is as close to the real colour that we've got at the minute, so this is our starting point. So then click OK. You need to make sure this is selected as well. Sorry, unselect that, because we've told it what to use there. Now what it's done, it brings us into this screen. And essentially what it allows us to do is it allows us to change the hue, the lightness, and the chroma of each of these colour chips, each of these steps. And we can change them by a small amount, which should give us results that are very similar. We can change them by large amounts, which should give us results that then make the chart look, you can see now the colours have changed. We've got a load of light stuff up here, it's much darker down here. Whereas if they're all at 1%, the colours are going to be a lot closer to the source colour. And the idea here, and it works every time on something like the 8600, the idea here is that we're going to print this chart, and the colour that we're trying to match will be on this chart somewhere. Once we've printed the chart, we'll identify the colour that is the closest match, and we'll then use a colour replacement. You can't see it yet, well, I don't know actually. So yeah, each of these colour chips have got the CMYK breakdown down the bottom. Yeah. So we then use a colour replacement, and we'd say, right, whenever you see this colour here, Pantone 491C, you want to replace it for these CMYK values. And yeah, Swatchbooks is, this is one of the reasons that people will upgrade to Pantone.
Yeah.
It is massively, massively, massively useful. I've done some work with some Formula One teams. I can't really go into the specifics, but I've done some work with some Formula One teams with block colour, and Swatchbooks is the tools that we used, to replicate these colours absolutely perfectly. So it's not for everybody. Not all customers are interested in this stuff. Some customers just hit print. They don't know anything about colour or colour management. They just hit print. It looks good. Thumbs up. Their customers aren't fussy either, so it's all good. But
how comes if you
Formula One teams and stuff, it's a lot more stringent. We're talking things have got to be well below a delta T of 2, and yeah, this is where a Swatchbook comes in. If you've got a Spectro, photometer, then this is even better, because what we can do with the Spectro is if I restart this process, instead of keying in our values here, we can just measure it. So if I go to lab, we get this button, measure patch. And what that allows me to, I've not got a Spectro connected in the minute, but if we had an i1 connected now, it would literally allow us to measure the to put the Spectro on the sample that the customer's got. Might be a piece of material, it might be a piece of painted metal, it might be a piece of vinyl that's been printed already, but we can put the Spectro onto it, and the Spectro will literally put in these CMYK values for us. Because if we're matching to the closest Pantone colour, that colour may not be anywhere near as close as actually measuring it. And then we just go through, we've just measured it, we then go through the same process, but the first chart we print will be a lot more accurate, because we've actually measured the colour rather than just chucking in a Pantone colour that was, the closest that we could find to it. And then, again, once you've done this, you go to Print Visual Swatch.
Why do you get two kind of big rows there? I've just got one colour.
That's because I've changed these up here. So I've said I want 40 horizontal patches. If I start changing this, then I'll end up, there's a number of pages there. This is 2 pages. You must have it set to 1.
I can't change it. Mine's greyed out. Perhaps because it's demo.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe, but yeah, essentially and I always tend to use 3. You can do this 1-dimensional, 2-dimensional, or 3-dimensional. but I find three-dimensional gives me the best variance of colours.
Yeah.
Because it's changing the steps on the colours, vertically, horizontally.
Yeah.
However the 3D part works. Whereas, you do it twice, you do it with two, or you do it with one, and it's only applying, one set of measurement changes. So what I always do is I'll start off high. I'll start off on maybe 7 or 8, which should give me you can see, I don't know if you can see that, but this, these are all different.
Yeah.
We're starting off quite light here, almost looks like a gradient. So I would start off with something like this. I would print this swatch. I'd put more in there. So we get more variation. But I'd print this swatch. We then find the closest colour to the colour we're looking for on this swatch. And if we need to, we can then print another one. We can put, say this colour is the closest. We can then start again. We can print another chart, and that colour we just identified as the closest, we use that as the starting point. I forget what it was now, but we'd use that as the starting point. We then come back in, and this time we want to set the differences to not, to quite close together. So that is now dialing in the colour. That's now going to give us a load of chips that are all very, very similar to that colour that we first selected. To be honest, when you do this on the 8600, it can get overwhelming. You print this on a crappy printer with a crappy gamut, and a lot of the colours look the same. They genuinely do. Whereas you do this on the 8600, because the gamut's so good and it's so accurate, all the colours look different. I print this on the 4-colour Canon, and a lot of the colours just look exactly the same because it doesn't have the gamut to distinguish those differences in colour. Whereas again, the 8600, it'll chuck out a chart, everything will be different. This is really powerful. I've sold loads of Epsons just off the back of, the colour management, the colour matching sort of potential of this software. So again, you don't need to know the ins and outs, but that's how it works. Again, if we've sold somebody an Epson and we've charged them 1,500 quid for a poster shop upgrade, they may expect 5 minutes on swatch books. They may kind of think that I paid for this, so can you spend 5 minutes just showing it to me?
Yeah.
Again, I wouldn't get into printing the charts, and actually showing them the proper process. Just show them how it works on the screen and how they output that chart, and how they change that if need be. But you don't actually need to print stuff and measure it and all of that. You guys haven't got time for any of that.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. There is, before I forget, there is a few other bits. So if I bring this job in, I right click it and I go to Edit, Printer Settings. Well, that looks completely different. Strange.
It looks the same as mine.
You see, when I'm on the Epson, that screen looks like this, this is what I was looking for. But then when I go to the Canon, that same screen looks like this.
You need to buy an Epson.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah, just say that.
Yeah.
If anyone notices that when you're installing, they obviously need to buy another Epson. So this is where the only reason I show you this printer settings. This is where you'd switch on the white. Okay. So we've got a file and it's got spot 1 in it. Okay. So spot 1 is whatever is loaded into the Epson. If we've got silver in the Epson, spot 1 is silver. If we've got white in the Epson, spot 1 is white. And it will come up with additional options in this list. Okay, it's not coming up with it now because our file doesn't have spot 1 in, so it's not recognised it. But it will come up with additional options. It will say about printing in two layer mode, maybe even 3-layer mode. It depends on the profile you've selected, but it may even talk about printing in 3-layer mode. And if you don't activate it here, even if your file's set up correctly with white or silver on, it won't print.
Okay.
Now, you know it's worked because the graphic changes colour. So see how this is blue?
Yeah.
If I actually go into the job editor, this job isn't blue. If I turn this off, right, see. So this is what my job looks like in real life, okay? Now, when we've selected the right profile and it's working properly in Onyx, the white or the silver is working properly, it will change colour, like that. And that lets you know that it's going to print properly. If it's still the same colour as it was before and nothing's changed, it's not going to print white or silver. It's not, you've not set it up right. So it will, I think on the Epson it changes to green maybe. You know, it'll do exactly what it's done here, but it'd be more of a greeny tinge. But yeah, if you're printing white and silver and it hasn't changed colour, then it means either you've set it up wrong in the file and it's not recognising the, you know, the spot one, or or it means that you haven't gone into. Let me close all this down.
It's all go this morning.
Isn't it?
Yeah, so you either haven't set your job up properly, or once this rips, I can show you. Yeah, anyway, you need to go into edit printer settings, and you need to make sure that the right, the right one is selected. It might say white arrow, then silver. It might say white arrow, then color, just depending on what you're doing. Because also some people are going to do different stuff. Some people are going to print, color first in reverse. They're then going to print white and then color on the top of it. They might just be flood coating something in white, in which case it's just one layer. They may be printing white onto carbon fiber and then putting color on the top. So all those various options, all those various print modes with white and silver, they will appear in that menu when you've got the right type of file in there.
Yeah.
I can't show you it now because this file is for the Canon Colorado and it's set up differently. So I'll try it. I don't think it'll work when I send it to the Epson. We can try it. Right, see, it's coming to the Epson now and it's at its normal colour because it's lost any of those spot layer settings. Just one more little screen to show you after, and then I think we're good. But in terms of the training, the way I would probably do it is just flow through the tabs like I've done. It makes it a lot easier. It gives you a proper structure because you're just following the flow of the tabs. And although I've shown you pretty much everything today, ultimately, if it's not there, the customer doesn't have that functionality on their version of Onyx. So when you go to install Onyx on Monday, because it's only Rip Center, you'll probably find that, some of these tabs are going to be missing, some of this functionality is going to be missing. So again, I would just flow through, go into the job editor, let's do it here, right click into job editor, and then, just flow through the tabs step by step. And I'd say that's going to be the easiest way to show it to the customer. That way you're not kind of missing anything. Yeah. And also you're not talking about functionality that, doesn't exist within their RIP.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Do they already have any Epson machines, or is this first one, or?
So the customer on Monday, no, they've got a Muto at the minute, so this will be their first one. But then you're doing an install on Thursday for 8600, which is Epson number 2. You won't need to show these guys pretty much anything apart from, I think they want to be shown how to change the maintenance parts. They've had an Epson, but they've not ever had the warning, like the spit pad, the wiper unit, and the filters in the top. They've had one for years, but their Epson's never triggered the warning for them to change it. So it's probably going to happen quite soon, so they just want to see. So yeah, the complexity of the install is going to depend on, who we're giving it to and, you know, some people, for example, it might be their first Epson, but they've had Onyx for years. In which case, they're gonna probably know Onyx better than you guys, and they're not going to expect training on the Onyx, only on the Epson printer. But yeah, Mondays, I believe they've had Onyx before, so there will be some familiarity with Onyx, but they've got a much older version. So there's probably a load of features, you know, in their copy that they haven't got in their existing one. And they've had a Muto before, so they'll require a little bit of a slightly higher level of training, I guess. You know, whereas Salvo on Thursday, they won't require barely any training because they've been using one daily for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Let me just show you that last bit. Do you know what, I'm going to check on one thing as well. Do you remember we spoke about the colour management and everything was set to perceptual?
Yeah.
Let me just double check with Paul at Epson, and just make sure that is definitely right, because if it's not right, you guys are then going to go around and set everyone up along that basis. So yeah, let me check with Paul, and I'll drop you all a screenshot later of what the correct rendering intent should be on installation. Okay.
Yeah.
Because yeah, if it's not perceptual for everything, that's what I use in the demo room. But if Paul doesn't think that's the right thing to do, then yeah, we want to make sure we're setting people up initially with the right. Because some people, they won't have a clue about any of that. They'll never even change it. They'll just use whatever you guys have set it to as default.
Yeah. You're gonna try and get Reza on a Friday. Good luck.
Yeah, that is a good point actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to get him yesterday on a Thursday, and that was difficult enough.
He's retired.
Right, so one other thing, if we go into job properties, right, so there's a couple of really, this is where you can just quickly and easily change your profile, flip the artwork, or change your pass rate. You can't really do much else here. But if a customer ever wants to know how much ink, you may get asked this, they may say, oh, is there a way of calculating ink? Because on the Rolands, VersaWorks just does it all on the screen for you. It's really nice. And, for people that really want to control their costs, it's important to know how much things are costing to print, how much ink it's using. So if you want to do that in Onyx, you need to click on Calculate Ink Usage. You just hit OK. It's going to re-rip the job now. You can see up here, it's going to re-rip it. And then it's going to rip it again, and it's going to say something like counting dots. Yeah, counting dots. Right, so that's now ripped. So if we go back into it, again, double click, we go back into it, we go to Info, you scroll down to the bottom. This is just all the specifics of the job here, don't worry about any of this. Just scroll to the bottom, and then you can see here, our total ink usage for this graphic is 4.32 milliliters. And it also gives us a breakdown of how much ink of each color it's used. Now, the one thing to bear in mind with Onyx is the 4 point, it's not going to be 100% accurate, because as you know with the Epson takes on Onyx's color interpretations, it screws them up, tucks them in the bin, and then it then uses its own VLOOKUP tables to decide on how much ink of each is going to put down. So yeah, this is definitely good enough for an estimate, but it's not going to be 100% accurate because of the way that the Epsons process color. If you did this on a Mamaki, for example, it would be 100% accurate, because Mamaki will be dictated, all the color stuff will be dictated by Onyx. Whereas on the Epsons, it's got those VLOOKUP tables in the background, and it makes the color decisions itself. And that's partly why it's so good. And then the one other thing is named colors. Now, let me just see if I got a Pantone chart. Must have printed one at some point. Pantone chart. But what you use that for, you good? Disappeared now because I'm not on the 600. So yeah, you've got named colours. Now, if there are any Pantone references in there, any named colours, anything like that, then it will show you the delta E value for each of those colours, which again, on something like the Epson is really handy. So if I was to load a Pantone chart in here now, you'd see a load of colours, Pantone colours, come up in this list. You know, we have a list of a couple of hundred of them probably, and then next to it, it will tell you the delta E values of each, which obviously, you know, give you a good indication as to how accurately it's going to replicate those colours. You know, so if you ever get into a conversation with somebody about, you know, the colour accuracy of the Epson, it's very easy to actually show them, you know, the colour you're printing is going to print to this delta E. And again, with the 8600, I put in a Pantone chart, 95% of them will be below 2.0. You know, some of them will be as low as like 0.1. And then you'll probably have about 10 or 20 colours in there that are from, you know, about 2 to about a highest of 6.
Okay.
Which is outstanding. You put this on an HP latex, for example, everything's going to be like 15, 20, 25, 30, you know, because they're not built for colour accuracy. So again, the reason for showing you that is just if customer, you know, ever wants to know, you know, why can't I print this accurately? You know, you can literally go in there and you're like, well, mate, this, you know, it's got a delta E of 6. This is out of gamut for your printer. You know, your printer is not capable of replicating this, or certainly to a, you know, an accurate level. Again, for me, this is something that I use all the time because I'm having to print jobs for customers, and they, you know, they want to know the accuracy and they want to know how good, you know, the replication is going to be. Okay, and I think that's pretty much it. Here's your preview. So this, you know, it's not showing everything because we've got them on different pass rates. Yeah, so although these two are on the same pass rates, because we're printing separate registration marks for them, it won't group these jobs together. Or in fact, will it if I turn on that? No, it still won't group them together. Whereas if all the jobs were on the same pass rate with the same settings, then you'd see all three of these jobs in this, you know, in this preview down here. The placement here, you can tell it what you want to do. You can conserve media, which means it's just going to, if you put conserve media, it's going to nest everything up as tightly as possible to minimize media wastage. Group jobs together, it's not going to worry too much about wasting media, but it's going to put every job from a certain group, you know, one after the other, or print jobs individually. I use print jobs individually because, again, I'm quite often doing demos, and I don't want to print 20 things at one go. I want to print one thing, you know, I have a list of 20 jobs on, but I want to print one, you know, we take a look at the output, we have a talk about it, then I print another one. So, you know, again, depending on how the customer works, you can set this up. Or if they've got a Fotoba as well, Fotoba cutter, XY cutter, then you can also add this in the placement strategy. And then pretty much everything else, guys, is probably stuff that you've covered before. I'll check two things. I'll check with Paul on the rendering intents.
Yeah.
And we'll, you know, and I'll say, right, guys, any installs, please use these rendering intents moving forward. And I'll also double check on where you add the plotters as well. I know it's in there somewhere. I saw it a couple of weeks ago, but rather than keep you on, you know, online while I check a load of menus and that, yeah, I'll get back to you.
Okay, and can you send us an image with a cut line in it?
Absolutely, yeah. And I'll send you some print files as well. So you'll have some sample print files, some sample cut files, and the other bits I mentioned.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, cheers.
Yeah.
Cool.
And guys, look, I'm more than, you know, if you need me to go through anything again, if you want me to do this whole thing again, you know, you've got any specific questions, you know, anything I can do to help. You know, obviously I'm not an engineer, so I'm unfortunately not at your level, but yeah, anything I can do to help, just let me know, and yeah, I'll try my best.
Cool. Well, I've recorded the whole thing, and I'll make sure the rest of the guys look at it. We I've been in conversation with Onyx, and they've sent me some training stuff, which looks to be 2 to 4 hours long. So from a chap called Richter Groenbreck. So
he's the general manager.
right. So
Big man.
yeah, he got obviously got a sniff when we were doing demo downloads, and so he sent me quite a lot of stuff, which we'll plough through. The main thing is for us is to get. It's the more we do, the better we're going to get at it. So but obviously we want to make sure that we do it to the best of our ability, and we will try our best. And Michael's going to have an interesting day going through all of this. Rather than using his screwdrivers, he'll be on his computer getting familiar with it, because he can be the start to be the rip expert, which I'm sure he's gonna. Because I know he doesn't need any excuse to jump in his car and go and fix stuff. So he's but I think his Friday afternoon is now decided. But we'll go through it and make a plan ourselves, and then on Monday, if we've got spare capacity, then one of us will go up as well and do the install with Michael.
Another thing worth noting is if you ever want to come down and spend the day in the demo room, down in Spandex, and the reason I say that is, although you guys have probably had hands on, on a million Epson printers, you obviously don't get the opportunity to just play around and experiment and have a little go and see what it does. And so if you ever want to just come down and just get some hands on with the printers, and I don't know if that'll help you in what you do, but if you ever want to do that, then the offer's there.
Great, appreciate that.
Cheers.
Appreciate that. Superb. Well, thanks for your time, and hopefully it'll go well. We'll feed back on Monday how it goes, and I'm sure you'll hear anyway.